Hi there, business owner. Are you looking to improve your business knowledge? Do you want to see behind the scenes of successful businesses? And more importantly, are you looking to build a better business in just 15 minutes each week? If so, you're in the right place. Welcome to the 3Bs podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the 3Bs podcast, your go-to 15 minutes of education, motivation and inspiration and the CPD points every week to help you build a better business. Now, this is not any episode, it is episode 100 and I cannot believe I am here 100 weeks in, consistently providing you with 15 minutes every single week and keeping that consistency. We all know in business, consistency is key. And for me to stick to it week in, week out, through sickness, through child holidays and everything in between is something I am incredibly proud of. So to mark episode 100, I knew I had to do something special, but I couldn't decide what to do. So if you follow me on LinkedIn or if you're over on the 3Bs Instagram page, you would have seen that I'd asked for your opinions as listeners on what you think I should do for episode 100. If you don't already follow us on there, do go ahead and do so. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Follow us on Instagram so you're up to date with the latest news, all things the 3Bs. And you did not let me down. You came up with some incredible ideas. So Kirsty St. John said, do it live and get some guests on, which would have been amazing. But the logistics just didn't work out and the time to do this probably didn't work this time around. But it is something to keep in mind for future episodes. If you like the idea of a live episode at 6 a.m. on a Thursday morning, then let me know and I'm sure I can try and figure something out. Elaine said going with 100%. So Johanna mentioned using this sort of 100% to mark the 100th episode, which I really liked. And Elaine said go for 100% changed, 100% the same. And that could be the theme for this week. And that's the one I've actually chosen to do. It's the biggest things that have changed and the biggest things that have stayed the same and will continue to stay the same for the next 100 episodes. So I'm going to start with the biggest changes, the biggest shifts that I've seen both in my industry. For those that don't know, hi, I'm your host, Stephanie. I am a multi-award-winning entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in bookkeeping, accountancy and business development. And that is where my expertise pulls from, as long as running a practice, ABCS UK, for over 3 years. I mix my experience and my knowledge and education to bring you the latest motivation, tips, tricks, and everything to help you build your business better. So looking at all the different shifts in the industry, in business in general, and sort of my personal approach to what's changed over the last 100 episodes. If you've been here from the beginning, do let me know. Do send me a message. Maybe I'll get some 100 club badges made or something. So if you've been with us from episode 1, do let me know. The links are always in the show notes, or find us on social media and I'll get something sent out to you. But anyone that's been here from the beginning knows that I didn't start with video. I started on audio only, used to record at home my podcast. And a little secret is episode 1, I decided in January that it was going to be released in April in line with the tax year. So I must have recorded 30, 40 attempts of that first episode before it went out. Whereas now I just record them. I'm recording this now on Tuesday the 25th. It'll go out on Thursday the 27th. I am going to be moving to a Monday record date just in case anything happens. Doing it on a Wednesday and going out on a Thursday is incredibly stressful. But I do like to record them each week where possible because I think it's really important if there's any changes in the industry, if anything's up and coming. I like to deliver these episodes based on what's going on in my world or my client's world or my business's world. Because if I'm going through it 99% of the time, somebody who's listening or watching this podcast will be going through it too. So it's timely and I can give a much better perspective and put together a much better episode and talk about the things when they're so fresh in my world and in my client's world. So I don't do any re-recording now. There's a little bit of editing. There's a few ums and ahs that I edit out, and sometimes I get my words muddled up, so I'll re-say it and I'll cut that bit out of the bit that you see and hear. But actually, there's no real re-recording. I don't take multiple takes anymore. It is what it is. You get it fresh, and that's been developed over 100 episodes. I think the confidence has definitely grown as the episodes have progressed, as I'm doing it more and more. The confidence has meant that I don't need to re-record. It's kind of two-sided in that My confidence is better, so things come out much more smoothly and flow much better than they used to. But also, I'm not so critical on myself that I do say I do say or I have to cut bits out and say things again, whatever it may be. Another thing that shifted a lot is there's a much wider range of episodes now. So when I first started, obviously bookkeeping and accountancy is my absolute bread and butter. It's what we do it day in, day out at the practice. It's something I still do hands-on every single day as well. So that is my absolute zone of genius and something that I can very easily put together an episode on finances. But actually, business owners need so much more than that. And I say often with my clients that actually the bookkeeping and accountancy services we provide to our clients at ABCS UK, that's only a small part. Unlocking the finances opens up all the other data, from the sales data, from the marketing data, from the PR, whatever it may be. That is all going to work together as a machine, and finance is just such a small cog that is a part of that machine that is your business. So for me, giving this value, actually only giving you accountancy and finance value wouldn't be fair, because that's such a small part of the puzzle. So I quite quickly spoke to guest experts. That's why we have guests on every now and again, because things that are not my zone of genius, or I've not been through myself enough times or well enough to be able to give you inspiration or motivation on my experience of, was unfair. So I looked for a much wider range of guests. I looked for a much wider range of topics and themes for the episode. So we do marketing, we do awards, we talk about much more than just the finances, which is what the podcast initially was going to be about. The other thing, which I guess has surprised me in a way, is that so many people in my industry, other bookkeepers and accountants, actually listen and watch this podcast each week. So they're all business owners, granted, but when I started the podcast, I genuinely thought it wouldn't reach my industry, my network. I didn't think they'd really be interested in it, which I was incredibly wrong. And I'm very grateful for you all if you're watching and listening. Thank you so much for being huge cheerleaders and getting this podcast to where it needs to be. It's great for others in the industry because they get their CPD points that we need to do every year to keep our licenses and to keep ourselves up to date with all the ever-changing goalposts that business owners have to jump through, specifically in the finance world. When you think of the budgets and the spring and autumn statements and all the things that keep changing all the time, actually getting on top of this and them listening to it in 15 minutes helps them digest it and helps their clients, which I'm all for, and I really want to help as many business owners as possible, even ones that use my network for their bookkeeping and accountancy. That doesn't matter to me whether you're a client with us or not. I just want to help everyone build better businesses. Other big shifts in the industry, obviously, when I started this podcast in 2023, we weren't that far out of all the lockdowns and everyone was recovering and building, and the building the better business came from the fact that we'd been in this real period of where a lot of businesses couldn't trade or had to pivot and change really quickly in order to not lose everything. So that was very much the focus, was helping them from the ground up again. Whereas now we're on the building better businesses, and the episodes are much more focused towards businesses that are running successfully without the huge out of your control hurdles and delays, and looking to grow and scale bigger and further. So you'll definitely be able to go back and listen to the older episodes. But obviously things change constantly in the business. Simple as, in the last 100 episodes, I started out on my own. I hired an employee. I fired an employee. I hired another employee. And that's the way business works. And things have changed for me as a business owner myself. So if things are changing for me, things will be changing for you too. And that's okay. So whilst the older episodes are still relevant and you can still go back and listen to them, actually staying subscribed or staying up to date with them each week when they're released, it's actually more beneficial for you, because as things change, I will talk about them on the podcast, so they're more up to date. Things that haven't changed, though, are the core values and principles that started in this business, and that is my passion for helping business owners has remained consistent. In fact, I think it's grown. I get more and more passionate every single week about helping business owners build better businesses. The episodes are still 15 minutes each week. I think it's the perfect time. The big, long 30-minute, 1 hour episodes are fantastic if you have that time. And as busy business owners, which is who I'm creating this podcast for, 15 minutes is kind of all we've got to listen to something or watch something. So that's staying, and that will always stay. I think 15 minutes is absolutely perfect. And as you've seen before, when conversations with guests have gone on longer, we've just split it over 2 or 3 episodes so that 15 minutes stays consistent and will remain to do so. The other thing that hasn't changed is Thursdays. It was always on a Thursday. It was the beginning of the tax year. It worked really well. I haven't changed it. I think it still works really well. So that will not change either. And finally, before I finish this episode, I wanted to go through some of the stats. So I look back at some of the data. As you all know, I love the data. Data unlocks everything. So I started this podcast to help UK business owners build better business. Simple as that. It's listened to in 23 countries, which absolutely blows my mind that people from Japan and South Africa and France and Portugal and America would be interested in UK business. But I guess because you live there doesn't mean you don't have business in the UK. So definitely something I wasn't aware of that's happened and is incredible is the amount of different countries that listen to the podcast. It blows my mind. So if you are from another country, do let me know. Do drop us a message on social media. Again, I can't believe you're all listening to it from as far away as you are, and I'm really, really grateful for it. Also, we have over 1,600 downloads now, which every single week when I do my KPI tracker and I look at the increase from the week before, I remember being absolutely over the moon when 10 people listened to the podcast. I remember the first time it hit 100, and the first time it hit 500 and 1,000. Now we're well over 1,600 downloads, and it's ever increasing as more and more people are finding it. I had a comment this week on LinkedIn from a listener who had not heard the podcast before. We got to 99 episodes, and clearly I'm a very well-kept secret because they'd not heard of the podcast, and they said, I can't stop listening to it. It's fantastic, which is amazing. I'm glad it's helping business owners because that's the whole point of this. And then over on YouTube, I was looking at the stats. We moved over to YouTube quite recently, so I think it was around episode 85-ish, we moved over onto video, not just audio only. The old ones are still on YouTube, but obviously the video is just the cover art, the episode art. There is no video for those. But over 80% of viewers are not subscribed, so there's over 80% of people going onto YouTube watching these videos, yet not subscribed. So this is the perfect time for me to say, if you're one of those people, do go and subscribe on YouTube. You can also hit the notification bell, which will tell you when the next episode goes live. It's 6 a.m. every Thursday on podcast platforms and 9 a.m. on YouTube. So that's not changing for the foreseeable. If it ever does change, I'll let you know on here first. You'll be the first to know. But if you're not subscribed, you should do so. And one final ask, if that's okay, is can you rate, review, give it a 5-star review, write a little review, whatever it is you do on your podcast platform, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcast, Castbox, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to it, Audible, because it really helps the algorithm push it out as recommended podcasts to more people. I don't make money from this podcast. It is a free thing. It's a passion project for me. But the more business owners' hands I can get into, or ears, would be really great, because that is my goal, to get to as many as possible. So thank you for listening to this episode of the 3Bs podcast. I've been your host, Stephanie. I am so thankful and grateful that you are here with me and you've made it to episode 100. I can't wait to see what the next 100 has in store. If you do have any ideas on what topics you'd like to see covered or guests you'd like to have on, do let me know and I can get that booked in for you or provide you what you need to help you build a better business. I'll see you next week. Bye. And that brings us to the end of another episode of the 3Bs podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Please connect with us on social media. Like, rate and review wherever you are listening to this podcast so that I can help more business owners build a better business. See you next week.